Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this monthly in-depth ag forecast for Ag South and Ag Carolina. All right, here's the plan for today. We've got a lot of things that are changing, as I'm sure you're all very well aware, but I'm going to talk to you about the why. I want to drive you out into the longer range by looking at what's going on with La Nina, what's its strength look like, why is it probably not the most dominant player going forward, and we're also going to talk about what all of the long-range models suggest. So we're going to look at the European, the National Multi-Model Ensemble, the Climate Prediction Center, and the CFSV2. That is word soup for Eric's access to long-range models. So we're going to get to all of those. And at the very end, we're going to talk a bit about what's happening in South America. But this is a map that's going to change a lot over the coming days. The holdout for the warmest air has been in the southeast, okay? And we continue to see that even this morning here on November the 26th. Quite a bit of warm air still in place, but Arctic air is plunging through much of the Midwest, and it's heading toward the southeast very, very soon. Now, getting back toward the south, we've already had a couple of bouts of some really cold conditions, but we're going to see more of this into the southern plains as we go forward as well. But the anchor for the coldest air is going to be in this area. It's going to be coming out of the Canadian prairie and just diving into the southeast with time here. We've already seen some pretty dramatic changes, even just early this morning, just to show you how capable the atmosphere is of changing temperatures. We've watched this main front that's kind of snuck through the Mississippi Valley here. That's behind it dropped off temperatures more than 30 degrees from where they were yesterday. But we're also on a bit of a roller coaster ride. So while the southeast is kind of the last holdout for the warmest conditions, we do start to see behind these fronts brief and temporary warm-ups. Like, for example, look at Texas coming into parts of Oklahoma. Today there's winds that are out of the south in this area. So while high pressure dominates this region, we do have some warm-up that's happening on the backside. So let's just get right into the big story. What are the temperatures going to be for Thanksgiving week? What are they going to be beyond that? So this is today on the 26th, what the high temperatures look like. And so there's our warm conditions still living in the southeast, and here's that southerly wind driving the warmer air there. The cold front, though, moving right through this section of the country. Now watch, this is Wednesday, very mild in Texas over to the lower Mississippi River Valley, still parts of the southeast. But as we get into Thanksgiving, already replacing that cold air, the last holdout being this part of Georgia, North and South Carolina, and Florida, but the coldest air already invading into Texas. We could see a 30-degree swing in temperatures in Texas again just in a couple of days here as we get out to Thanksgiving. But then you watch into the weekend. There's Friday and Saturday, and we break down that stronghold of very warm conditions here in the southeast, and it's just out. And we get out there to Sunday. That's probably the greatest extent of the cold air east of the Rocky Mountains on Sunday, December 1st. And then you watch what's going to happen after this. Now, I'm going to make a case for you where I think the end of November and much of December is going to be in terms of the jet stream pattern. We're going to anchor a deep trough of low pressure somewhere in this area, and a ridge that likely will live somewhere here, meaning the flow is going to go up and around and down. And that is a very long wave, okay? So what's the difference? Short waves are the little tiny bends in the atmosphere that sneak through and then give you chances for high impact weather. Nah, that's not what we're talking about here. We're watching for these longer waves to develop, and that's going to be a main story for where this is going to go. And it's going to completely flip this around. So this is your month-to-date temperature ranks by climate district, okay? And everywhere that you see the numbers once, like in coastal Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, or a top 10 warmest like in parts of the Carolinas down to Georgia, this is where we're about to break this whole pattern down and flip it on its head. And some of this is being kind of passed along to you by the snow. You could see this on Monday night as the sun was setting. That's here in parts of the Red River Valley of the North and into the Canadian Prairie. That is where we've already dropped off temperatures in a dramatic way in this area, allowing for the cold air to be pushed into the south and southeast with time. So be prepared for that. There's also going to be a lot of discussion around the rest of the country about snow. And just to show you where we are on our season-to-date snowfall totals, we did hit some snow in the Appalachian Mountains. We did get some snow that came out of parts of New Mexico into the very, very kind of western counties and northwestern counties here, the Panhandles and Colorado. Some of this area picking up well over a foot of snow. But will we be getting snow across the south with this new setup? Well, let's just go have a look at it. 7-day forecast from the European model. The answer is largely no, okay? So while we've got the cold air coming in, and there'll be little skiffs of snow that kind of roll through here, the biggest snows are in the Rocky Mountains or in the Sierra Nevada here, the southern Sierra Nevada, or they're downwind of the Great Lakes where the lake effect snow is going to be truly epic. So if you get a chance to go on a a Thanksgiving break vacation, either go to the Rockies or go up here downwind of the Great Lakes and just to witness what incredible snows look like. I'm going to check one other model for you. That's the European model 7-day forecast on snow. This is the GFS. And just want to point out that there is this chance of getting some cold air that could get some snow here, but does it make it into the southeast? No, where I just mentioned where we have that cold air coming through. But hey, maybe somewhere around the Red River Valley of the south, there is a chance. But just tell you this, the air temperatures are going to be ripe and cold enough to make something like this happen. All right, bigger picture though, and that's what I want to focus on. This is way different from where we've been. And I'm going to make that point again at the end, but I want you to remember this map when I get to it later on, when I get over to these slides down here. Because this is what's changed. You see that? That is the new ridge that's setting up over the western United States. And we now have a trough north of Hawaii, between there and the Aleutian Islands, which are here. We've not seen that in a long time. And what it's doing is it's driving the jet stream south of this, over this large ridge, into a long wave that dives into this big trough that's rolling up the East Coast. And I think the pattern is so long in its waves that it's going to get stuck. And it might get stuck there for a few weeks. And we have to assess what this is going to mean for those few weeks. Because overall, it looks something like this. Dry almost everywhere, except the little push of moisture coming in here now, down one of the Great Lakes into the northeast. But you look across the whole of the south, we're looking at relatively limited chances of being above average on precip. Now, I've got some Thanksgiving Day precipitation in the southeast, and we're going to watch when this comes up here out of the Gulf to see if it moves across much of the south. But if you're in the mid-south, especially the Mississippi Valley, we're pretty dry. And so we just need to make a case for where this is going to go and what it's going to do across the whole southern tier of the United States here going forward. But over the next 7 days, I just want to let you know, while Texas and Oklahoma are drier, go over to the Mississippi River and east, we start to see better chances of getting some precipitation. So again, parts of Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, there are the chances here of getting, somewhere between 1/10 and maybe up to 7 or 8/10 of an inch of total precipitation when you look at the newest data. All right. So thinking this through, what's driving all of this? Well, let's get a reset on this. By the way, at agweather.com, I have modified all of my maps. And let me rephrase that. I've modified all of the players. So you can now come into this and just click play, and it'll just show you. And by the way, we're adding all of the regions into this as well. So you'll be able to look just at the southeast, or if you want to look at the south central, doesn't matter. You can look at all of it. But what's nice about it is it'll load fast now. It'll load on your phone. And I think it's a much more efficient way to be able to show you these data. So what do we have? Let's play through the rest of the day today. We got chances for some showers, maybe a storm here, but not too much. We're then going to watch going into Tuesday and Wednesday. I just want to let you be aware that this frontal boundary here might bring a shower or thunderstorm into the mid-south, maybe some light showers into the southeast, maybe some along the Mississippi, not much. And there's this small shot at getting some snow in this area, just to kind of represent how cold this air is going to be. But overall, this is how things shape up by midday on Thanksgiving, and we're just going to be on the lookout for some showers and maybe some thunderstorms to roll through parts of the southeast as we're about to clear out all of that warm air at this point. So that'll be it. On Thursday, as that rain moves through, following it is going to be high pressure and much, much colder air coming into this area. Okay. Now from here, I want to show you a little different view of the precipitation from the European model. Now I'm going to tell you something. I just put in the order to get the precipitation type from the European model. It's kind of expensive, and I had to just get it ordered. But so right now, this is just showing you total. Next time we talk, you'll be able to see where it's going to snow and where it's not. So it'll be all on my same consistent maps. But I rarely show you the whole North America, including the North Atlantic and North Pacific. But I'm going to do this on purpose today, because watch this. I'm going to play this fast. Ready? 10 days really quickly in front of your eyes. Now, what did I want you to see here? I'll go back. Watch it again with me one more time. Do you see what I see? That was not a reference to a Christmas song, by the way. But we have these two areas. Keep your eye on both of those areas. That as I go backwards and then forwards again, do you see how everything curls up in those two areas? These are where the two long wave troughs are living, with the broader ridge here. And that's what's going to usher in the colder conditions. Now, let's get a little bit of the timing here. In fact, we can just zoom in. This is what will be also updated on the website. You can go look at any region in the U.S. or the whole U.S. or the globe. I don't care. It's all there, and it will be very soon. And we just see the front sneaking through now. There's the next front. This is the one that's coming through on Thursday. it clears out, and then there's that little skiff of snow that doesn't get into the southeast, and we just don't have much. There's a push here next Monday, Tuesday, getting some moisture into Texas, but it's going around this big high pressure cell anchored over the southeast. That's the setup. And each time we see that, there's just cold air getting thrust into the southeast and into the southern plains and into the lower Mississippi River Valley. So you say, well, what does it look like? Well, this is who's not going to get any moisture. Over the next 10 days, this is the probability of staying under 1/10 of an inch. And there are pockets down here in the southeast and pockets, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, that are staying dry. If we look at chances staying under 1/2 inch, now we see that much of the south is dry. So is much of the plains in the Midwest, even the Canadian prairie. You say, well, why, Eric? That's where the ridge lives. The trough is here. And that's where the wetter conditions are. See this? Lake effect snow. Wetter into the northeast, which is good. This area's been anchored in drought. So that seems to be the pattern we're in for a while. And we're just trying to assess, like, how long is it going to be there? Because if I show you out to day 10, see those long waves again? They're going, Eric, you keep calling these long waves. Yeah, right. What's a short wave? Short waves when we have these little sharp troughs in the black lines. And they come sneaking through and they move fast. They progress east. The longer the wave becomes, the way that it advects planetary vorticity actually makes it appear to move to the west. Now, let me just rephrase that for you. This is what a long wave looks like. If you go from here to here, I mean, what is that? That's like 6,000 miles, maybe more. And that is a long, long, long wave. So the way that planetary vorticity is advected into each of these troughs, here and here, and then under this ridge, will make the wave look stationary. So do you notice how most of our weather patterns move to the east with time? Watch, ready? This is day 10. I'm going to take you to day 15. They didn't move at all, did they? In fact, they tended to retrograde. You're going, what's that? Well, it's when they go to the west. Watch this one here. Ready? North of Hawaii now. Day 15, way over here. And that is what I'm thinking hard about here with trying to assess and understand how long we get stuck in this pattern, because if you look at our week 2 forecast, notice this is the CPC, European Ensemble, Artificial Intelligence, and the GFS. Most of them are drier, except they've got this thing early next week coming in here. But for the southeast, we're going a drier run. Mid-south, most of Texas, drier. And that's what that long wave pattern is going to do. And it's just important to compare this to where we've been. So if you look over in South Carolina and Georgia, we did have earlier in the month that frontal boundary that stalled out, soaking the area. Before that, it was about 50 days of dryness. If you're in the southern plains, this whole region was incredibly dry in September and October. And then now, November, everywhere they have the number 1 is the new wettest start to any November on record. So look across the whole of the South. What a difference. Now, the closer you get to the mid-Atlantic, the drier. If you want to see where we started off the month, that was the November 1st 16-inch or 40-centimeter soil moisture map. This is what it looks like now. So major changes here. Still dry in the lower Mississippi River Valley, and pockets of dryness, especially in the North and South Carolina. So we just have to assess all of this kind of together as a package when looking at what our moisture is doing. Now back to those temperatures. Frost risk. We've got that frost line really far to the south, touching the Gulf Coast here, all of Georgia, North and South Carolina. And if we just watch when these minimum temperatures are moving, this is today's min temperatures. Like I said, southeast is the last holdout for the warmer air. Here comes that brief surge of warmth, the last one, that's on Thursday, because by Friday, we're already driving in the colder air. Saturday, again, these are minimum temperatures well below freezing here. And then this is getting into Sunday, which I think will be the greatest extent of the coldest air, and then Monday. Now, what may happen as this pattern goes forward, if we look out there day 5 through 10, is that we're going to have a gradient from Texas all the way over to North Carolina, where the farther you go east, the colder it's going to get compared to historical averages. That's day 5 through 10. Same thing for day 10 through 15. Can you almost see it now? There's the ridge, and there's the trough. Big, long waves. And remember, southeast, every time we get warm in Alaska during winter, there's almost a guarantee that we're going to be driving cold air into this area. So now that this long wave idea has been established in your head, I've got the bigger question of trying to ask, how long is it going to be there? Because this is what it looked like leading up to this. So the end of October through most of November, we had a big ridge here. Now what's changed? This is what's changed. That ridge is going over there. This trough is going here. This ridge is going there, and this trough is going here. See how everything appears to be retrograding to the west in this? That's where things are moving in the near term. And as I look at all of it and I try to make some sense of it, I'm going to tell you, I don't think this is being controlled by La Nina. This is our La Nina. It's not strong. But we do have some colder water showing up here, a large plume of warmer water there still. The PDO continues to drop. And we got a big warm pool out in the Pacific, and the North Atlantic is still warm. And I'm trying to look at this saying, how are each of these things either constructively adding together or working against each other to change the pattern? And it is not clear. What is clear right now is this. In fact, let me just blow you back out to a global equatorial view. I don't want you to see precip. I want you to see the heights, a 7-day running average of them. Ready? For example, that's week 3, the December 9th through the 16th. What do we get? Broad trough, broad ridge, broad trough, Look at how long the waves are. Let's go to week 4. Do you see how it retrograded? Watch right here. Keep your eye right there. See that? Still. So when you wonder why the model gets stuck on this precipitation pattern, let's look at a 30-day precip window going all the way out to, in fact, going to the U.S. Let's go to inches. Let's go out to, I don't know, it's 2 days past Christmas. I mean, this is why we've got such a dry signal across most of North America. Most of the United States. Colder, drier. I mean, that's the way it's going to look. Temperatures. There it is. See it? So what a change, right? From November into December, big change in the southeast. Now, the CPC has updated their week 3, week 4 outlook, and they also updated their 1-month outlook. And I imagine they're struggling just like I am, trying to figure out what this temperature pattern is really going to look like. This is their outlook from the, December 7th through the 20th. Then they released this back on November 21st, and I bet they'd like to revise it. What I mean by that is I bet you they're still going to keep the warmth here, but have normal, equal chances or cooler temperatures there. I think that's what they'd change. Now you're saying, well, what could mess up these long waves? This can mess it up. If the MJO sweeps back over here again, then it's all out the window. But look, back in October, that's where the MJO was in October. Phase 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then in November, it came over to 8, 1, 2, 3, and it's here now. Where is it going? 4 and 5 again. Could it get to here by mid-December? That's what I want to know. If it gets there by mid-December, the second half of December looks entirely different from the first half. And I just explained to you what the first half is going to be. Dominated by long waves, cold in the southeast, drier pattern overall. But it's got to keep moving. We said, well, what about the ocean temperatures? What's this La Nina doing? It's very weak. I mean, it's just here. Is it strengthening a little bit now? Maybe. But I can't look at that and say there's too much of a La Nina pattern really with this whole thing. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I go out and I say, well, when we look at the La Nina forecasts, what do they look like now? We'll take a look. This is, of course, the Bureau of Meteorology comparing all of these different locations. So the Australians to the Canadians to the Europeans to the Japanese, the French, the United States, and the British, okay? And their forecasts for La Nina on this side or El Nino here. NOAA is the most aggressive. See that? January, peak. February, crash. But every other model is much, much slower on the progression of this than NOAA, okay? So what does all of that mean? Well, we can look at the European model, which is having a weak La Nina. What are they doing for December, January, February? Wet northwest, wetter here, drier southeast, drier along the Gulf Coast, drier in the Sun Belt. That's December, January, February. January, February, March, similar. February, March, April, similar. Wetter in the mid-Mississippi Valley, lower Mississippi River Valley, drier in the southeast. Do I buy it? No, I don't. And I think the reason here is that the model is too hung up on the La Nina being the dominant force. And I don't think it is. But I have to keep the narrative going because I told you I'd show you several models. Well, what about the NMME? It's got the same forecast. That's December, January, February precipitation anomalies. Then this is the February, March, April. It's got dry across much of the south. Wet in the mid-south Ohio Valley, wet in the northeast. And again, I think this model is way too hung up on La Nina. I really do. Is there any model out there that I think has a good sense on this? Maybe it's this one. And the only reason why I'm giving the CFSV2 some credit is that they're calling for a brief intensification of La Nina, then a quick demise. Okay, what does that do? It does this. I kind of flashed it a moment ago. These are 3-month sliding window panels, so December, January, February, March, and so on until you get down here to May, June, July. And this makes a lot of sense to me. If there's drought, it's anchored in Mexico. And the reason for that, honestly, is because of this. Let's go to agweather.com real quick. When you come to the website, you can go over to more weather pages, and I want you to see this map. What I'm showing you here is the cool-off that's happened right here. This is a part of a signal called the negative PDO. I can't write very well with my trackpad, but there it is, negative PDO. What does that mean? When the PDO drops and there's cold water that develops here, drought tends to want to anchor down into Mexico. And you can see that a little bit here. Now, it's also got Texas dry, but it doesn't have the southeast is dry. In fact, February, March, and April looks quite active in the southeast. Dryness, I think, is going to be limited to southwestern Texas, southern New Mexico, southern Arizona down into Mexico here. I'm not even sold that this whole area is going to be as dry as currently being forecast. I think the pattern is going to stay much more active than this. It's already shown its cards. We know that it can do it. It did it in November. I think we're going to just have to watch the timing of these precipitation patterns. But I'm going to tell you something. If you'd like to know where my confidence is, if this is high confidence, this is medium, and this is low, I'm right about here right now because of all these moving pieces in the atmosphere. And therefore, you just need to know. So my next video, we got to talk more about how these pieces are evolving. Okay, so last thing to show you. This is what the CPC just came up with. Now, this is their drought outlook for all the way through February. And I don't like that they're showing drought developing in the southeast, drought developing in southern Texas. There's reasons for this, okay? Because if we go into their 3-month outlook, this will be the last one we're going to look at today, the last long range. This is their December, January, February precip outlook. Now, they're drier across the whole of the south. What about January, February, March? See how they're dipping this farther into the mid-south? This will likely work into the southeast as well. I still think that this greatest drought is anchored here. Sorry, that was an ugly arrow, but down here. Let's keep going. This would be February, March, April. That makes more sense to me. See how that's not as dry? Why not March, April, May? See, I think this is a Mexican plateau into the southwest issue. That just makes more sense to me, okay? How about let's go back to December, January, February again. And let's look at the temperature probability of exceedance. They're calling for mild. I'm just going to tell you something. This cold air that's built up already here, what is it doing this week? Diving into the southeast. I think we won't have any trouble accessing really cold air at specific times during winter. I don't. I think we're going to be able to do it. It's just that when you average all 90 days of winter together, they may come out more mild when you average them all, but they will be punctuated by cold air outbreaks like the one you're about to endure for the next 15 days or so if you're in the southeast. January, February, March, April. Same kind of scenario. So that is all of the models stitched together. This is the whole story, okay? And I'm telling you that so much of this right now is banking on, these ocean temperatures dropping and these ocean temperatures dropping. And I just don't see this. Okay, I'll tell you what. You want to see what a strong La Nina looks like? Let's go to a website here. I'm going to take you back to the last time we had a good La Nina start. Let's go to SST anomaly. Let's go to global, and I'm going to show you how the La Nina built in 2020. How about November 25th, 2020? That's what La Nina should look like if it's strong. Look at that guy. Now, remember, see this? Where are we right now? That. What a difference. That was a strong La Nina. This is where we currently are. You see, there's other players at play here. So if I beat that to death, you now understand what long waves are. You understand why we're so confused on the longer range, even though all the models look the same. Still don't buy it. And I think we're going to have to watch that MJO move around. You know who else is watching the MJO move around? South America. For much of the month of November, plenty of moisture got into this area. And then what's happened is that's really relieved the drought, and it started to build a bit of a drought farther to the south, down here in Paraguay, Uruguay, southern Brazil, Argentina. But in the near-term forecasts, they're expected to be wet down there. And so if you're looking for any sort of a bullish story in South America with respect to grains, I just don't see it. Cotton the same. I mean, this is where we grow a lot of cotton down here. But it's a safrinha crop. That means most of it is coming in late. Now, there's some full season cotton, of course, but I'm talking most of it, I think, is a safrinha crop late, as planted in January and February. So that is what I've got. And it's a lot, but these are the things we're watching. So we just need to keep an eye on this, and we're going to talk about it again soon. I appreciate your attention. Thanks.